Welcome to Obsidian for tabletop RPGs. Let's learn how to use the tool. Alright, g'day guys and welcome back to another Obsidian video. Today we're going to be having a look at the fourth video in the TTRPG CLI process. Alright, if you're new to my videos and you haven't watched the first three videos of the CLI process, just a quick rundown. CLI lets you create thousands of notes almost instantly, very quickly, that are pre-formatted, giving you all the rules, the spells, the monsters for the content you own. Currently works for D&D 5e and also Pathfinder 2e. Now, if you haven't watched those first few videos, it's very important that you go back and watch those. All right, this video is not going to make any sense. So anyway, let's jump into it. Today, what we're going to be doing is having a look at templates. All right, because we've seen how to create the notes. All right, we've seen how to configure our sources, and we've seen how to create a configuration file. Today we're going to dive in how to create an actual template file. And the really cool thing about a template file is if you actually don't like the output of the notes that it's creating, if you want to change that, all right, then that's what templates are for. They let you go through and do that. All right, just a quick reminder that the content for this can be found here on my website. If you come into plugin tutorials and come down to CLI, you will see that there's a section here on the CLI process. We're going to be looking at 5e today, so specifically coming through to this video here, or this page here, sorry, and I'm going to be adding another page to this based on this tutorial. So if you want the supporting documentation and all that sort of stuff, this is where you go to find it. All right, with that said, let's jump in and learn how to make templates. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is actually get a copy of the templates, all right? Because the actual TTRPG CLI process comes with a whole heap of them. There's different options for monsters and spells and stat blocks and all that sort of stuff. So where do we get those? Well, we go to trusty old Google. I'm going to type in Obsidian TTRPG CLI. The first thing that should come up is this GitHub site here for Obsidian TTRPG Convert CLI. All right, if you click on that, all right, you'll come through to this website here, and this is where we initially got a copy of our CLI process. Just a reminder while we're here, it's a good idea to go and update your CLI tools before you run this process every single time. So before I've actually done this, I've updated the 5e Tools GitHub repo. I've updated my CLI executable from this release file in here, and I've also downloaded a copy of this entire GitHub repo, and that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so we click the code button and we go download zip. All right, that's obviously going to download the zip file for you. Once that's downloaded, here's what I prepared earlier. All right, we come in here and you can see a copy of this folder here. It's inside of that is where we're going to get the magic. So I'll just pull that over to the side screen quickly. And if I come in and grab, we'll go to our CLI folder. So we put it on the C drive, remember? Mine's in C CLI. You might have put yours somewhere else. Going into the 5e Tools folder, because we're going to be playing with 5e today. Going into the bin folder, and it's here in the bin folder is where we need to drag this new folder. All right, so we've got this here. We'll come back up to this main level here. This folder just needs to be dragged into here. All right, you might already have it because I think I went through it in a previous video, but you need that folder there. So once you're in there and you've got an update of it, you can come inside that folder, go into examples, come in here to templates, tools 5e, and we can see that there's a bunch of templates. Now, for those of you playing along at home, you might notice there's a difference. You can see that I've got some copies, all right, that I've made for myself, and these are my own templates that I have made, okay? So you can see what I've done is I've created copies of the original, all right, just a Control-C, Control-V, make a copy, and then I put -Josh in the end of the name so I know they're mine. What this also means is that I never update the original file, all right, because you've just seen that I update this process quite regularly, right? Before I run this process, I update it. So therefore, if I was just to change the existing file with the same name, then I'm going to override my changes the next time. So you do not want to do that, okay? So create templates uniquely, have your name in them, have some sort of unique identifier in them so that you know that they're yours. That way, when you get the update, you get everything from them. All right, but this is where the templates are, okay? And we're going to go through and we're going to learn how to use those. So first things first though, let's jump in and let's see what the actual original output of the CLI process looks like. Alright, so I've just quickly run the 5e CLI process just to really get myself a batch of data we can talk to. There's the command that I've used to run this, just in case anyone is curious. And you can see that I've just exported it to a native underscore export folder, just so I can keep a copy of it, right? That just puts it in a custom folder. Anyway, you can see it's created the notes, and what I've done is I've basically set this up in the vault behind. Now, as you can see, this probably isn't perfect, right? The picture is massive. It's not actually a stat block. It's an admonition, or I think it's even just a call out box. Let's have a look here. Yeah, it's an admonition. All right. So this requires the admonition plugin, and also it requires some CSS. Now, some of you will probably remember that we went through that CSS in the last video. Let's just quickly cover that, just so that you know where it is. I think that's in this one. If we go back into our folder, right, so from our bin folder in our new TTRPG convert CLI main, examples, CSS snippets, you can see all these different CSS snippets that are available. All right, it's worth noting that the templates are designed to be used with specific CSS snippets. All right. If you're using admonitions, you use the admonitions one. If you're using the stat blocks, you use the stat blocks. All right, you need to use the one that obviously is suitable for the content that you're using. So, obviously from Obsidian, I think you'd all be pretty familiar with this now, but we can go to Appearance, we can come down to CSS snippets, click Open. This is the folder where we need to put those CSS snippets. All right, so you copy them into here. And then obviously you enable them. So let's just go through. We're going to be using the D&D 5e compendium, but we're using admonitions. That one doesn't seem to take the impact that I was thinking. What about that one? There we go. What does that do? Alright, so this makes it blue. This makes it red. Alright, so there we go. I'm going to turn that one there on. And you can see the picture's now small and on the right. That's what the CSS snippet does. And it's laid it out just obviously a little bit nicer so that everyone can see what's going on. All right, we've got linking, things are working, fantastic. Now, for some of you, this is fantastic, and I just want to quickly talk about the difference between admonitions and callouts and stat blocks for monsters. If you are looking to publish your monsters online, this is the version that will most likely work for you. All right, because admonitions does work from memory. It's been a while since I've done it, but it does work with Obsidian Publish. But call-out boxes obviously do as well, where stat blocks don't. Okay, so just be aware of that. If you are looking to publish your monsters, I'd stick with this. For me personally, I like the Fantasy Statblocks plugin, right? I really love the fact that it's got the built-in button for adding a monster to combat and triggering that encounter block. That's really, really handy. So how do we change the template so that we can actually use that? All right, well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to come back to our bin folder. All right, and some of you will remember that we actually set up our DM sources. All right, now our DM sources was our configuration file. Now, if I open this, I think we had a really basic one the first time we did this. All right, here's the basic one that we had. And you can see that there's actually two templates that are defined in here. Okay, so this is where it gets defined in here. And you're saying, I want to use a template in my configuration file. And then these are the templates that I want to use. Now, where do you get this syntax to add into your configuration file? Well, we go to the documentation, of course. All right, if we scroll down here, I'm pretty sure we can find it. Using with 5e tools. Is there another section on shown in detail? Using a configuration file. Here we go. So if we scroll down from the configuration file, you can see there's a section here on templates, and you can copy and paste this into your template file. All right. Obviously following the syntax. Remember we talked about the fact that it needs to be after a comma. At the end it doesn't need one, all that sort of stuff. You've got to make sure you follow the structure of the text. But you'll basically copy this template file into your configuration file. All right, just like this. And you could do it, oh, stuff that up. You could do it, let's try that again, by just pasting this in. All right, put a little comma after there. All right, so that now says, I want you to create these notes when we run this option, all right, from these, this here. All right, now, what is this doing? Have I got my format there? Okay, that's worth knowing. Just before I proceed beyond there, just take note of my URL structure. When I pasted this in, note that it starts with examples. Okay, all right. Within my bin folder, all right, within my bin folder, I have a TTRPG-convert-CLI-main. Remember that when we run the configuration file, or when we run the CLI process, sorry, it starts in the bin folder. All right, so all of the folder structures that start from the bin folder need to consider that as the starting point. So therefore, if we pull this up, all right, this first example here will fail. All right, because there's no examples folder here, and examples is the first folder it's looking for. All right, so what I've done up here to make this one here work is you would have to copy the name of this folder into your URL or into your folder path, just like that, and that would then obviously function. All right, because from TTRPG CLI main, inside there will be the examples, and then inside there will be the templates, tools 5e, and the templates that we're looking for. Okay, so it's very important that you get that structure right, and if you don't, it will error out. All right, if it can't find the file that's been referenced in that process. All right, so let's just take this up a notch. We're going to get rid of my issue there. We've got monster2md-scores. We're going to run this. I'm just making sure. I'm going to take the adventures out just because I don't need them for this. I'll leave the DMG. We're going to run it with this process, all right, this configuration file. So dm-sources-basic.json. All right, we're going to go back to our bin folder. All right, we've got our file here. Just open it again, just to make sure we've saved it. Everything's in the right spot. All right, so we're going to run our CLI process from here. All right, so we type cmd. That comes up with the command window, and from here we can obviously run our process. Where do I get the command? Well, look, honestly, guys, I've made this website. It's actually for me. It's not for you. My memory is not that good, so I always come here and I get things that I want to run from here. So I come down to my run the GitHub website. Sorry, run the TTRPG CLI. I'm going to grab that command from there. I'm not using my original command because that is quite complex, if I'm completely honest. All right, we're going to go -C to say user configuration file, and we're going to use dm-sources. Got to make sure I get this name right. -basic.json. We're going to output that to test1. And we're going to use that data. All right, let's see what happens. All right, it's reading the config. It's got some unknown sources that need to be fixed. That needs to be done by Obsidian. If you find sources that aren't working, feel free to raise an issue on the GitHub site, and they will get done. Now we're writing those files. All right, we're outputting those files. We're nearly done, and we're done. All right, so we've got a test1 folder. That's the output. Inside there, we've got our mechanics, our CLI, and we've got our things. Now, if we go back and have a look here, what did we actually do? All right, we have used a template for backgrounds and a template for monsters. So obviously I would normally drag all these notes into the tool, but for the purposes of this video, I'm actually just going to play with this one folder, all right, because I just need to show the changes that we're making effectively. Okay, so I've dragged in the Bestiary 1 folder. I've just renamed it. This is a bad idea, by the way. I haven't put it where it needs to go for the linking to work, so this isn't going to be perfect. But it's in my vault, which means I can now come into my vault and I can have a look at this aberration again. Let's just see what it looks like. All right, you can see it's very sort of, well, actually it's got the player handbook information now, but we've got everything in here. We've got all of the attacks. Let's actually just try and open them up side by side, just to show us what they look like. All right, so we've got that one there. I'm actually going to try and rework this image so that it actually works for us. Not quite there. No, didn't work. Yeah, but I've basically hidden one, right? So this is what this one looks like. This is what this one looks like. You can see the picture is meant to be there, but I haven't put it in the right place, right? This is what I say when you've got to put these notes where they expect to go. Otherwise things don't work, and you can see all of the links don't work, where this one's in the right folder, so therefore this one does work. But for the most part, this template that I've used obviously is the same one that was used to create the original notes. So with that in mind, let's switch it up. I'm going to change to a different template now, and let's see what that looks like. We'll come into here. No, we won't. We'll come into Black Friday sales. No, we don't want that. We want this. We need to come back to our CLI folder, 5e tools, bin, TTRPG convert, and then we're going to go into examples, and we're going to have a look at templates, 5e tools, and we're going to play with monsters. Alright, so looking for ones with monsters in the name. I'm not going to use the ones with -Josh because obviously you don't have those ones. But looks like there's a couple of different ones here that are designed for monsters. And I just copied them all. These ones here with Statblock in the name, these are all for monsters as well. Object, race, spell, vehicle, monsters. Alright, and I think we used that one there, the scores. Alright, so we've got ones that can use stat blocks. We've got one that has images in them. Let's go ahead, and there's two options here. There's one that uses the stat block in the body of the note, and there's one that uses the stat block in the properties of the note. There's a YAML version, alright, and then there's the MD versions. Oh no, sorry, that's for objects. Object stat blocks. Alright, so we're just going to use these. So I'm going to use this one here. It's got the stat block in the body. And basically we're going to come here to our template, and we're going to change this last little bit at the end to match the name of the template that we want to use. Alright, and then from there what we're going to do is we're going to bring back up the CLI process, press up to bring the same command that we used last time, and I'm just going to come back and I'm going to change this to test2, and we'll run the process. Alright, and that's going to go through, export those options, and allow us to see what they look like. So give it a couple of seconds. Doesn't usually take very long. Writing files. And in the meantime, let's go back to our bin folder and get ready for it. Here comes the test2. Nearly finished and done. Let's grab the test2, and we're going to go and put that into our vault, keeping in mind that I'm still in the wrong spot. Alright, test2, and we'll open up the vault. It's probably going to freak out a little bit because I just added a lot of notes. Alright, here's the bestiary, and let's have a look at the aboleth. Which one did I just open? Alright, here we go. So, now we get the monsters in the stat block format. All right, as you can see here, again, folders in the right, notes are in the wrong spot, so links are all broken, but you get the idea, right? We can actually come in and change the output of this. Now, what's actually happening under the hood? All right, let's jump in and have a look at the actual the bottom section of what's going on, or the actual files. So we're going to come over here. Am I going to come into that one? I'm going to come into the bin folder. We're going to go back into here. We're going to go into examples. We're going to go into templates, go into tools 5e, and we're going to open up one of these notes. Now, I'm going to have a look at the one that has it in the body. My personal preference is to have my stat blocks in my body, by the way. I prefer that. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, what it effectively means is you can have all the monster stats up here in the properties. That's one option. Or you can have it down here in the body of the note. I prefer it in the body of the note. That's what I'm talking about specifically. All right, but here, this is the template that we just used. All right, now I'm going to try and get this on both sides of the screen so we can see what's going on. All right, here we go. So this was the template used to create this note and all of these notes. And if we start on the top, we can see some familiar patterns, right? We're basically drawing the dash dash dashes for the properties. You can see we're defining the property names here, all right? And in some situations, all right, there's some code here. Now, I don't know this code, all right? It uses a special syntax. It's not handlebars. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's covered in the documentation for the CLI process. So if you want to understand it in depth, you can go back and check that. But it's basically got some checks going on. So if there's resource.tags being a JSON property inside of the JSON file, then we're going to create the tags property. And inside of there, we're going to basically do an if statement that basically spins through and brings back all of the tags. All right, so it basically gets all of the tags and adds them in. All right, you can see that's what that's doing here. Is it's basically dash tag, dash tag, dash tag. It's an if for statement and then the end of the if. So that whole section there is creating this. Okay. I haven't made this. I haven't played with these much at all. Now, Statblock inline, that's a very important one to have because that tells the Statblock plugin that this is a note that contains a Statblock, so that needs to be there. And then there's aliases, right? So you can see resource name has been pulled in, and resource.name is again a file, a reference properties thing from the JSON document. Then we got dash dash dash. You can see that it's creating a header, adding the resource.name to the header, adding the vault path in there, setting the source, right? So you can see it's really sort of structured in a way that's actually pretty easy to understand if you go through and have a look. Now the stat block here, all right, so you can see resource.5e statblock YAML. Like at some point, there's something clever going on there to bring in all of this data from the stat block. All right, and then what we need to do is look at, well, what changes can we make? What do you want to change? And there's not a whole lot, all right? There's not a whole lot that I have wanted to change, but there are some little things. So here's my YAML stat block. I'm going to open this one up on the second screen. All right, so this is the original template. This is the template that I've personally made my changes to it. Now, I do also have some problems with mine because I didn't follow the syntax properly. But as you can see here, I have added a note icon, monster. All right, I'm using supercharged links, and where my monsters have the name, the note icon monster in it, it changes the icon of that note to monster. So I've got that. I wanted to have the type of monster in there. The reason why was I like to use Dataview. All right, so I wanted to make sure that I had Dataview going on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the syntax above, because we did have an issue reported where some of my templates were creating problems where there's like special characters in the return. Source type, bestiary. All right, I like to use Dataview to say, show me all of my monsters. All right, and where I do that, I go source type equals bestiary, means it shows me all the monsters in a Dataview query. We've got resource.source. I'm going to put that in a square bracket again, just to fix that up. Again, just so I can say, show me all the monsters from the monster manual, right, with a Dataview query. That's why I've done it. Then I've added AC and I've added HP. Again, the reason why I've done that is for Dataview. I like to be able to have a Dataview that comes up and says, show me all the goblins, and I include their AC and their HP so I can get an idea of the level that those monsters are, so that when I'm going through and picking monsters for my combats, I can get a whole list really quickly and quickly sort of get a glance of what it is that these guys are all about. All right, then we go through. I have not made any changes to that pretty much. I did go through and add this encounter table. Okay, now what that does is that just adds an encounter table down the bottom. Now that is a completely unnecessary change these days. Okay, Javelin went through and actually added that functionality directly to the tool. What am I talking about? Oh, not that button there, this button here. I'm talking about these. All right, they weren't in the stat block originally, so you had to add them down the bottom. All right, and it worked, but it was just a bit clunky and out of place, right? Because it meant you had like this nice centered stat block, and at the bottom you had a left align encounter block, and you had to kind of come to the bottom of it to press anything. Javelin made an update for me, all right, and just added it straight into the stat blocks. And mate, thank you. Choice, it's in the perfect spot. It's easy. I can click it. I trigger combat, and that's all there is to it. So I really, really enjoy that. All right, but anyway, that is my modified template, okay? As you can see, it's quite simple for you to go through and do it. Where am I getting these though? All right, the resource.ac, the resource.hp, like where do I find out the names of those things? Well, for that, we need to look in the JSON file. All right, so let's do that. We're going to come back to our bin folder. We're going to go into our 5e tools -mirror. We're going to go into the data. We're going to go into bestiary. And what we'll do is we'll find the monster manual, because that's the one that most people would probably be playing with. It's usually right in front of me. DMG, monster manual, there it is. All right, so here's the monster manual. All right, this is the JSON file, and you can see the structure of this. If we go through, find our curly bracket start at the start of a name, all right, we can go all the way down to the end of that, and we can see that is one monster. All right, at the end of this section, or that curly bracket, there's a comma. It starts with another curly bracket, another monster's name, and off we go. Now, inside of here, though, we can actually come through and look for AC, all right, because I've pulled in AC. So AC, and if I scroll up, I can see it's under monster. That's fine. So it's just AC. So I just made this up as I was going. I didn't really understand what I was doing, but I looked at the template. Where is it? Here. I looked at the template and I noticed that if it wants to pull in something from the JSON file, I needed the name of the JSON file bit, which is this section here. All right, we'll try and move this here. All right, so I noticed that the description was there. And if I come down here and find description, I'm sure it's around here somewhere. I can never find things where I'm trying to do this. No, maybe that's actually from the actual monster manual book, so that might not be here. It's probably a bad example. But the AC, let's have a look at that. All right, so we've got the AC. I've got the AC here. It's not actually under a resource subcontainer though. It's actually in the other sources. Well, it's not even anything. It's actually its own thing, right? It just comes in under that monster. But I noticed that there's a pattern to this text, right? Wherever a piece of information is pulled by the CLI tool, it's using resource.dataname. Okay, so I just replicated that. I didn't overthink it. I just said, all right, I don't need to understand how it's working. I can just see that there's a pattern to it. So therefore, if I type resource.ac, does that work? And you can see I did curly bracket, resource.ac. And it worked. All right, it pulled out that information, which is fantastic. All right, so that was really easy for me to actually pull in. Where you've got strings, you can see that it's recommended you put it in the square brackets with the parentheses around it. Sorry, the quotation marks. And then down here, I was like, all right, well, let's take this a little bit further with my encounter block. I just needed the monster name, right? Because an encounter, that's all you actually need is the monster name. So I just put that in, and all I did was type the exact syntax that the plugin requires, all right? You can see the majority of that, if you take out that and you take out that, that is just the text syntax that you write into Obsidian. So that was pretty simple to figure out. And that's all I needed, guys. I just needed a small number of changes to make this match all my personal use cases for the way I use monsters. So I went through and did that. And what I'm going to do is we're going to run with this one. Am I in the right one? Oh, I might have actually added that. We're going to just have a look. Where are we? We're going to go into bin here. We're going to go into examples, templates, tools, Josh, race, image. There it is. That one up the top. All right, so we're just going to grab this name, the full name. New version of recording software. Every time I press F2, it now brings up the highlight text window. It's going to be fun. Okay, I am now going to copy that into here. We're going to actually just press up to bring back the last command that we ran. We're going to come in here and we're going to change the... Oh no, sorry. We're going to go back to our dmsources.basic. And we're going to change this here to the name of my new template, which has my -Josh in it. All right, we're going to save that. Now we're going to come in here and we're just going to basically press enter on that process again. That's going to go ahead and create those notes. It takes a few seconds to do its thing. In this case here, I'm actually overriding. I probably should have changed test 2 to test 3 for the purposes of this video, just so I can keep track of all the changes I'm making. Doesn't matter. All right, just reading the sources, it's writing the files. Take about 5 seconds from here to spit out all of the files, and we are done. All right, so now we can come back to our bin folder. We can have a look in test 2. I'm just going to grab the bestiary. All right, I'm going to specifically put that into our vault, just so we can have a quick look. Alright, now as you can imagine, like I'm making a mess of this vault, guys. Like everything's in the wrong spot, links aren't working. I am making quite a mess, and this is not the way I would do this. I would delete my original CLI folder from my vault, or at least override it with the changes, but we're making videos. Alright, so here we can see that this process has now run, and as you can see, I now have my note icon to monster. I've got my bestiary type, I've got my source type, I've got my book source, I've got my AC and my HP, all right, which is really obviously handy. And if we scroll down, you can see here that I've actually got the encounter block as well, all right? Keeping in mind that I no longer need that, all right? I'm going to update my templates to remove that, but it's a nice example to show you what's possible, right? In the fact that you can actually change these for yourself. All right, so there you go. That gives you the basic understanding of what templates are, where they should be, how to reference them, how to modify them, why you might modify them. All right, but let's just have a quick look at what is actually available. All right, so if we go into examples, templates, tools 5e. All right, we have objects, we have races. All right, and as you can see here, there's different ways to actually have these things coming out. So you can change it for these specific things. Spells, all right, you can change your spell ones if you want. Vehicles have their own reference point as well. All right, backgrounds, items, spells, races, monsters. Sounds like that's about it. All right, so anything that's in this folder you can modify to your heart's content. Obviously, like, you'll need to fiddle with probably a little learning the syntax for how to pull the data. All right, but it's pretty simple, as you can see. It's just the resources dot data point name from the JSON file. It might get a little bit more complex, right? If you've got something like this, all right, it would be resources.save.con. All right, because it's got to go into that save bucket. All right, that's what that there says. Anything with the curly bracket after it says I've got a bucket of things. And then inside of that bucket, there's 3 pigeonholes with information on it. There's con, int, and wiz, and therefore you could bring those little subcomponents out. So you'd go resources.save.con, and that would bring +6. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. And then, yeah, obviously through this process, I guess the one thing that's worth pointing out is that if you're changing from one type to another, all right, you can actually come in here and turn on the ones that you want. All right, so I'm using Statblock, so I'll use the Statblock CSS just so it doesn't mess with things. The CSS will make a lot more sense when you actually have the notes in the right path. All right, now, just to quickly remind you what I'm talking about. In my template, this one here, I've set the expectation that my notes will be in /2-mechanics/CLI. All right, same with my rules. It goes in the rules folder. In your Vault, when you paste those in, what that means is that you need to follow that. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot again, this one. All right, so you need to follow that. So I'm in my Vault here. Technically, what I need to have is the -2 or the 2-mechanics at this root. All right, because whatever I've defined here needs to be my root folder. So technically, for the pictures to work, for the links to work, I need to replicate that. And as we've been through in previous videos, it is a bad idea to move your CLI notes around or to modify your CLI notes. It's just a bad idea. But anyway, that shows you how to install the templates, run the templates, change the templates, modify those templates to meet your own personal requirements. There's lots of different templates that you can play around with, and I'm sure you will break something, so don't forget to take a copy of the templates before you mess around so that you can always go back and change it. Obviously, you're defining which templates to use in here, and just to show you a larger version of what this might look like, if we come back here, here's my file. All right, this is my DM-sources that I use with the content that I own. And as you can see, come down here, I've got a much larger template block. All right, that's because I'm setting up a template for each of those type of notes. All right, so there are all the different 5 options that we've got access to. I've modified all of them, so therefore I've had to define that I will modify all of them in my config file, and then from there it just goes through. So yeah, there we go. That has been how to use templates for the CLI tool. All right, this has been an overly complex series of videos. All right, but I've seen some of you have figured it out. So congratulations. I know some of you struggled through this. Some of you were like, oh wow, this is easier than I thought. And there's a lot of steps, right? There might be more videos for this to come. I'm sure there possibly might. Like maybe we need to do a PF2E series, although the tool isn't quite as mature for PF2E. And it's also worth noting that now that Pathfinder 2E Remaster is out, the CLI PF2E tool was looking at the PF2E Tools website. The PF2E Tools website is no longer being maintained and is not being updated for the remaster. So that's problematic. All right, it's got a line in the sand. It's no longer updated with the current version of the rules. So therefore, I'm starting to move away from that process for Pathfinder. Sadly, hopefully, there's a new source of data in the future that works with the CLI tool, and we can all skip over to using that because I love this tool. You're brilliant. Oh, yeah. Like, it's hard to explain how many years I spent entering data into Realmworks, guys. Like, manually copying and pasting. The journey I've been on from where I sat down and started using these tools and going, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then the PDF quality, right, was copy paste. Oh no, there's spelling errors. Like it's just riddled with issues. To now be sitting here talking to you guys about a process like this, where in 5 seconds it spits out all the notes that I own, and I can just drag it into my vault and go off and keep doing what I need to be doing for my games, right? This tool has got me back rolling dice quicker and spending a lot less time prepping, all right? I don't worry about monsters that I'm referencing anymore because they're there, all right? It's absolutely fantastic. Actually, there will be another video. I just thought about it. We're going to need to have another video to cover how to do custom content, all right? So in the next video, what we'll go through is how to actually use a local copy of the 5e Tools website to enter custom monsters from the content that's not in 5e Tools, but obviously content that we own. We're going to get it into 5e Tools and then get it out of 5e Tools into the CLI process and into Obsidian. So that could be a little bit of fun. Anyway, that has been templates. I hope you found this video enjoyable, useful, all that. If you are finding this useful, please do like and subscribe below. My name's Josh Plunkett, and I am the guy behind the Obsidian TTRPG tutorials.com website. All right, so if you're finding this useful, please jump over to the website. That's where all my content is available for you guys. Just a quick one, community and support. Make sure you're jumping into this community Discord, guys. That is where we're hiding. And if you have a TTRPG specific question, that's the best place to get it answered. However, if you've got a question that's related to Obsidian, right? Obsidian won't open, or you've got a problem with a generic plugin, not a TTRPG one, you are going to get a lot more support through the Obsidian official Discord server, because there is like, well, I've heard Obsidian has like 1 million users now, right? TTRPG community, we're sitting around probably 2,000 users. We're not quite at the 1 million mark. We might make it, doubt it, but we'll try. So jump in there. They're both very, very good resources. If you would like to support me, my Patreon community is available. It's about the cost of a coffee a month. It just says thank you. All right. My patrons also get access to a special Patreon vault, which is like a foundation TTRPG vault. Comes with all the plugins that I recommend, with a folder structure, with some templates that I'm using. It's got Dataview Queries all set up, right? It's designed as a place for you to sort of commence your journey with Obsidian. And it's a really good way for you guys to see how some of the things I do interact with each other. So that might be of interest for you. I'm pretty sure Patreon has a free tier now. So if you want to just sign up for free, get the vault, and then unsign, well, that's fine, guys. Go for your life. Outside of that, huge, massive thanks to my patrons, right? You are absolutely incredible. You keep me energized and making this new content. And I'm just trying to figure out where we go next. Right, we got one more video for the CLI tool, and then what are we going to do? There's got to be some new stuff out there. Anyway, have a great day, and I will speak to you all on the socials.